you. Thank you. We are excited to be here. Thanks for having us. And we are also excited to share a lot more information about Project Amber that many, if not most, have heard about. Um, Let me introduce myself. I'm Nikhil Deshpande. I'm the head of the product management for Project Amber at Intel Software Group. And I'm joined by Raghu Yeluri. Raghu?
Hi, good afternoon, good morning. My name is Raghu Yeluri, and I'm a senior principal engineer and the chief architect for Project Amber.
Thank you. And we also have, we are going to be joined by a surprise guest speaker halfway in the presentation. We are really pleased to have that speaker on board here. We will introduce the speaker as we get to that portion of the presentation. So what we want to cover today is we want to share a lot more information about Project Amber. We will talk about what the product looks like, what's the SaaS look like, architecture, and then we want to spend time on interoperability because that relates to the customer experience. And then we will also cover status and roadmap so that you get an idea about where we are at on this as well as what our future vision is. So what is Project Amber? Project Amber can be described by basically what we introduced in the beginning. It's an operator-independent, multi-cloud, scalable, turnkey attestation service. Now, when you look at this statement, you must be wondering, where did you get these all adjectives? We didn't create these adjectives. We heard this from the customers. The customers wanted to have this type of service where there's an operational independence. It works across multiple clouds and multiple types of clouds, scales across those, as well as it's a turnkey service. So the initial release of Project Amber will be verifying trustworthiness of SGX and TDX TEEs. This is the beginning of our Amber roadmap. Trustworthiness will include kind of proving the genuineness of the platform, making sure that the platform is correctly and patched at the right level, and the TEE has been instantiated with authenticated firmware. The other thing that Project Amber does is it separates the authentication, the attestation from the infrastructure provider. And this is a key requirement that we heard from customers that want to enable zero trust in their infrastructure. So this is a fundamentally capability of Project Amber where the attestation authority is not the same authority as the infrastructure provider. And that helps improve the trustworthiness into the confidential computing for many of the regulated type of workload owners. The third thing that Project Amber brings is it's a turnkey service. This is another requirement that we heard from customers is they want to focus their CapEx and OpEx dollars on their core business, and they would rather receive the attestation service for confidential compute as a SaaS service that they can just turnkey, use as a turnkey, and helps them with their budgeting as well as helps them with where they want to go with zero trust. And the last but not least is single consistent attestation across the clouds. Customers are on various infrastructures, right? On-prem, they are on public cloud, they could be on hybrid cloud, they could be on edge cloud or the network cloud. They want a single attestation service across all these infrastructures. And that's what Project Amber is about, providing that consistent, uniform, and unified attestation across all these aspects of infrastructure, cloud, public cloud, on-prem, edge, and so on. So let's talk about the Amber 1.0, which is our initial release or the first release of SaaS. What are the capabilities? This service will have a specific uptime that we are initially targeting. We are targeting 99.95%, but that's just the initial uptime. And then we are having conversations with customers to understand their requirements and adjust it according to their requirements. We expect it to increase in near future. As I mentioned, it is a multi-cloud and a hybrid cloud and edge workload support service. What it means is your workload could be running anywhere in your hybrid cloud or on-prem, or it's in the public cloud or the edge cloud. Amber will be able to attest to that workload as long as you are using SGX and TDX in the beginning. So in our first release, we are supporting these two technologies, but that's not where we are going to stop. We are going to actually, I'm going to share with you the roadmap today that will walk you through, what our vision is. Our vision is not limited to only SGX and TDX. It's much more expansive. But to start with, we will support SGX and TDX in our first release. Now, let's talk about some of the capabilities that we are bringing with respect to architecture and some security and isolation properties. Raghu is going to go into the details of the architecture, so I won't spend too much time on this. But fundamentally, Amber is architected for federation. And why did we do that? The reason we did that is because customers are not monolithic. Some customers can have a different requirements in terms of the autonomy that they want to have on attestation. For those customers in certain geos or in certain use cases, the architecture is foundationally designed to be federated, and we are able to support those type of use cases with Amber. The other thing we are doing with Amber is we are very aware of the security requirements of a security service. And we actually are running Project Amber's attestation logic. We are running it inside SGX. Okay. So this allows us to actually isolate the attestation logic security from the underlying hardware. And this also allows our customers to have proof that they can trust the integrity of the verification process that the Amber is using. This is a fundamental requirement that we have heard from customers. This is something like who trusts who, right? The customers want to make sure that they can trust Project Amber and they can trust that all the security procedures are followed. So faithful verification is the capability that we are bringing with Amber 1.0. This is very important for customers who are mainly in the regulated space, but pretty much all the customers actually appreciate that. The next thing that you will see here is we are, as an Intel SaaS service, we also want to make sure that we have isolation from the data or the attestation logs that are being generated, because the customers want to use that logs, the verification reports that Amber generates for audit purpose or compliance purpose down the line. And we want to make sure that those are protected and those are protected from an integrity point of view. And hence, we are actually protecting these records, the attestation logs, the statistics for the customer in an immutable ledger. So not even Intel has access to that. Intel can modify it. And this is a fundamental need that it's solving, which is the compliance and audit requirement for various segments like healthcare, financial, and so on. This feature will help them meet that and enable them to adopt confish computing much more with much more confidence. Quickly, what are some of the things in terms of features for Amber 1.0 SaaS? That is the first release. We are really, think of this service as a SaaS, typical SaaS service. We have a very three-step easy onboarding process. It will happen in the way of a customer subscribe to the service. It's a subscription service, and you get to define your attestation policy as you want us to attest against. You will integrate the Amber client into your workload, and Raghu is going to go into details for that. And then you basically just deploy your workload as usual and receive the attestation through the Amber service. So it's a very easy three-step process. We are particularly focused on ensuring that customer experience is as smooth as possible on this. The other thing that you will notice with Amber SaaS is we are realizing that customers are not monolithic. They have different needs in terms of what they want to do with attestation service. They have different needs in terms of how frequently they want to attest, how many times they want to attest, how much volume they are going to generate, how much customer support they want, what type of SLA they want. So you will see that we will have a different service tiers for this service. And this is to ensure that we are flexible to meet the customer needs that are going to be using Project Amber. As I mentioned, we have simplified integration models. I won't go into details of that. Raghu is going to go into the details for that. And then the last but not least is dashboard. This is the dashboard that I was talking about when we discussed an immutable ledger. There will be a service dashboard where you can track all your attestation stats, logs, use that for auditing. And these logs are protected by immutable ledger. So super excited to bring this service out. I'll talk about that later, but bring this service out, and meet those customer needs that we heard from lots of customers that we talked about confidential computing, and help grow confidential computing together. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Raghu to describe some of the architectural aspects, and then I'll come back with roadmap and status. Raghu?
All right, and Nikhil, thank you. Can you move to the next slide? Okay, so when you think about Amber architecture, there are really two primary pieces. Okay, there is Amber, the SaaS itself, which is the service that provides the verification and a whole set of other APIs to interface with the SaaS. And then there is what we call the Amber client. Okay, we have the Amber client, a generic set of libraries that serve two purposes. They run on a compute asset like a TEE or if you have TPMs, and if that's what we are attesting to. And its purpose is twofold. Its purpose is, the first part of it is to actually talk to the hardware, talk to the attestors, whether it's SGX or TDX, to actually get the evidence in a signed way, and then package it up and send it to the SaaS so that it can get verified. So in some sense, the Amber client is a proxy. The real cryptography code, the cryptographic code that's coming is really coming from the hardware, and Amber client is just making it easier to get that one and deliver it to the Amber SaaS so that it can verify it. Okay. The same Amber client can also be used by the relying party. Okay, so if you are a relying party and you want to verify the attestation before you interact with that workload that is running on a compute asset, you can verify the Amber attestation uh, through the Amber client libraries available, and you can interface either directly to the Amber SaaS, or you can interface with the workload, and you can get the same kind of verification before you can interact with it. Okay, so we try to keep it as simple as possible. The SaaS is something that's going to be there, and Amber client is your mechanism to interface with it, whether you are on the workload side, whether you are on the relying party side. It's the same set of libraries, semantically doing different things based on what you're trying to do. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, as far as features of Amber goes, the SaaS itself, first thing is the attestation model is very standard. Okay, we are aligned to the IETF RATS architecture, so we implement the background check and the passport model for attestation. Okay, we talked to many customers. They said there are occasions where they need the passport model, but there are also occasions where they require the background check model. So we decided to implement both of them in Amber. Okay, policies are a big part of Amber. Every customer, for every workload, if they need to, they can actually define their appraisal policies. These are policies defined in OPA Rego language, as the Rego calls them as rules. And you can have rule policies for a workload owner, you can have policies for a relying party, and it's very flexible. Okay, if you don't specify any policies, Amber has the notion of default policies, and the default policy typically is, hey, make sure that it is the latest TEE with the latest patches, with the latest signatures, and has the latest collateral. Okay, that's the default policy. If you don't think you need anything else, you don't even need to set policies. The default policies apply. But you have the ability to configure these policies to the point where you can be very precise in what you want Amber to evaluate for the workload that is running in a trusted execution environment. The Amber results are called attestation tokens, and these tokens are configurable as well. Okay, you can say what kind of claims you want in your tokens also, and the lifetime of this token. These lifetimes are very interesting because a lot of people would like to cache the Amber tokens so that they can use them for a period of time and provide them to the relying parties as decisions are being made. Okay, and this is very configurable. You can configure it at a workload level. You can configure it at the entire, as a customer of Amber. You can say this would be my lifetime for the policy. So very granular control of the attestation tokens is possible as well. Okay, we built a shim layer in Amber, what we call an adaptation layer. Sorry, mistake on the typo there. It's called the Microsoft Azure Attestation Adaptation Layer. Okay, uh, uh, and it provides interoperability with Microsoft Azure Attestation for seamless customer experience. What I mean by that one? So if you are already using MAA and for your security properties or security requirements, you want to use Amber as your attestation service, we don't want you to make any change to your applications. You use the existing Microsoft Azure client, and then you essentially switch the service to Amber from Microsoft Azure Attestation. Okay, we will talk more about this thing as we go into the later part of the presentation. Okay, we support both launch time as well as runtime attestation. We heard enough from the customers that just as important as launch time attestation of a TEE and a workload is, we need to be able to have runtime attestation as well, so that we can periodically and continuously monitor the trustworthiness of that workload. Okay. And the last one, Nikhil already talked about. We have this concept called faithful verification, where all of Amber services and our key material are fully isolated from the underlying infrastructure, which is hosting the Amber SaaS itself. Okay. Intel is the root of trust for this key material, and these key materials are directly delivered into trusted execution environments where Amber services are running. So we can guarantee that these keys are our Amber keys are never compromised in the infrastructure on which they are running. Next slide, please. Okay. I know, Nikhil, in the interest of time, maybe we can skip this one. Okay. Okay. So we talked about how do workloads integrate with Amber, right? Nikhil talked about the two-step process, right? So we have multiple ways we integrate with Amber. You know, there's an Intel SGX mechanism, and then I will also talk about the TDX mechanism. Okay, we provide what is called an Amber client library, which is a set of libraries that abstract capturing the evidence and also communicating with the Amber service. Okay, as far as your application goes, it is just a simple one API call from your application where you call into this library that you link. You know, you see that the step zero there, you're essentially calling an attest API with the appropriate API key, and then all the magic of talking to the enclave, getting the evidence from the enclave, and then sending it as a quote to the verifier, the Amber service, and then the Amber service returning the token to you, the attestation token. All of that magic is managed by the client library. Okay, and these client libraries are fully available in open source. Okay, we have language bindings in Go and a few other languages to begin with, and all of that is fully open sourced. Okay, in case of Grameen, we are actually getting the Amber client libraries, you know, a variant of this directly into the Grameen environment. Okay, that way you don't have to do any patching of that or anything over time. It's all part of the Grameen environment. From your user application, you just access the token /dev/attestation token, and all the magic of getting the evidence, doing the verification, all of that is handled by the libraries that are already integral to the Grameen environment. Okay, this process is going through the upstreaming effort in Grameen, so that we are hoping that once it is all done, it will be native part of the Grameen runtime. Okay, when you get to TDX, next slide, Nikhil, please. When you get to TDX, we have three different flavors of the Amber client. Okay, the first flavor is a CLI. Okay, so you install the CLI inside your TD, inside your virtual machine that runs as a TD, and then from your application, you just call a script, and the script will launch the CLI, and then CLI does all the magic of getting the evidence, all of the steps that I already described. Okay, this is the CLI, and the full CLI code is going to be available to you in open source, so that you know exactly what is there inside that CLI. If you want to build it yourself, you can build it yourself also. We provide a binary, but if you want to build it yourself, you can build it yourself as well. Okay. The second one is the same thing as you've seen in the SGX model, the second flavor of the Amber client. It is the Amber client library. you link it with your application, and you make one API call into that library in order to get the attestation verification and get the attest token back so that you can provide it to any relying party. Okay. The third model that some customers have asked us for is they don't even want to make that one change to the application of actually calling into the library or the CLI. Okay. For them, we are offering something which is a system D service. Okay. Which has an HTTPS, a lightweight HTTPS server in it. And that way, a relying party, typically like a monitoring service, for example, can periodically request an attestation from that Amber service, Amber client service. Okay, and then the Amber client service will do all the magic, getting the attestation token from Amber, and then it will provide that to the relying party. That way, there is continuous monitoring of that customer workload that is running inside a trusted execution environment like TD. Okay, this is think about this as a use case for like a security event monitoring or a compliance dashboard kind of a scenario. Okay, so as you see, there are multiple ways you can integrate with Amber, whether it's SGX or TDX as the trusted execution environments, and we maintain different CLIs for this. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, interoperability is a very big part of what we focus in Amber, and Intel and Microsoft have been closely cooperating and collaborating on offering attestation choices to make customer experience as seamless with Azure confidential computing. So with that, I want to introduce that special guest that Nikhil talked about. Her name is Sindhuri Ditakavi, and she's the program manager from Microsoft. Hey, Sindhuri, thanks for joining. Great to have you, and why don't you take it from here?
Sure. Thank you so much, Nikhil and Raghu, for inviting
Okay,
us. It's
you
a
need
pleasure to be here. Hello, everyone. Sorry, Raghu. Hello, everyone. I'm Sindhuri, product
no,
manager
no, go
from
ahead.
Azure Confidential Computing. Today, I'm excited to share more insights into our collaborative efforts with Intel. So, Nikhil, could you please move to the next slide? Yeah. Microsoft has been leading the confidential computing space by closely partnering with hardware vendors like Intel. And it is worth highlighting that this collaboration has a very rich history that dates back to 2015. It started when we enabled Intel Software Guard extensions offering in Azure, which has been a highly successful partnership. And now we are also working closely to enable trusted domain extensions, that is TDX in Azure. As you know, when it comes to safeguarding data in confidential computing, attestation plays a very crucial role. We are now taking this years long collaboration between Microsoft and Intel to a new level in attestation space. Before I get into the details of our collaborative objectives, please allow me to share a quick overview of what Microsoft Azure Attestation is. As you know, Microsoft has been investing heavily in the attestation space, and we also offer a remote attestation service, which is Azure Attestation. The service offers a unified attestation experience to attest to different types of TEs, which could be hardware based or software based. And the service is generally available since 2021. It is a regional service, it is available worldwide across 26 regions. And you might be interested to know that the service itself runs in an Intel SGX enclave. We run our critical operations inside a TE to keep Microsoft operationally out of TCB. And today, Azure Attestation serves millions of requests every month, both from our first party and third party customers, and we continue to innovate heavily in this space. Now, getting into the details on what motivated us to collaborate further in the attestation space with Intel. Aligning with Microsoft's vision, which is to empower every person and every organization on this planet to achieve more, we at Azure Confidential Computing team want to ensure that our customers have attestation choices and they are empowered with the ability to switch to an attestation option that best meets their needs and most importantly, without friction. So, a key piece of this puzzle is how do we offer interoperability? How do we offer seamless attestation experience to our users? And to accomplish these objectives, we are very glad to partner with the fellow thought leaders at Intel's Amber team and industry forums. Now, how did we plan to accomplish this? We are trying to achieve these objectives in two steps. So, starting with MA and Amber, achieving interoperability involves collaboration in multiple aspects. It could involve alignment on attestation result formats, policy formats, reference values. So, MA and Amber team are currently placing a high priority on having a unified attestation result. So, we are actively working to align on common claim names for the tokens, which we will be issuing for trusted domain extensions in the upcoming months. And we don't want to stop here. We are also keen on expanding the scope of this collaboration and include more attestation choices in this journey. And this is where our adherence to standards become more relevant. The attestation tokens issued by MA and Amber comply with the IETF EAT specification. As you may be aware, this specification uh, is going to be a standard soon. So once we agree on the shared EAT profiles for TDX, we plan to publish them and promote them in forums like Confidential Computing Consortium. Uh, there is an attestation special interest group, Attestation SIG in CCC, and Microsoft and Intel have been actively contributing to this forum from multiple months. Now, coming to call for action, our goal here is simple. We want to make confidential computing ubiquitous, and we believe we can achieve these goals with greater numbers. So, we would like to invite interested parties to join us in this journey and work with us in aligning on the shared EAT profiles, adopting standards, and implementing this work within your services so that together we can improve our customer experiences. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sindhuri, and couldn't agree more with what you just said. We all need to collectively drive that smoother confidential computing experience for our customers. And thank you and your team at Microsoft for this collaboration. I think we are excited to be collaborating with you and looking forward to even extending it more. So, for in the spirit of making confidential computing easy to adopt and easy to trust, make it trustworthy for our customers, so that all those major workloads will move to confidential compute. Thank you for joining us. Um, in the interest of time, I'll just do quickly. We have only a few more minutes. Quick update on the status of Project Amber. We are doing service pilots right now. Lots of customers coming from various segments. The previous speakers in this conference basically talked about those segments, so I won't go into that. In terms of timeline, we are targeting GA later half of this year. And at that time, Intel SGX and TDX attestation will be available. And Raghu already talked about what we are doing with respect to client libraries and with respect to Grameen. So we are super excited. We are psyched to get this technology and service out later half of this year. But we are also welcoming the industry collaboration. If you are interested in joining us for the pilot, please contact us and we can talk about it, how you can test out Amber. We have limited time available for this as we target towards GA, but also other industry players. We want to make sure that we work together to drive the attestation seamlessly across all the infrastructures that our customers work with. They are not with one infrastructure, they are with many others. So the other thing that I want to talk about quickly is, where do we go next? We are going to basically go GA with Intel SGX and TDX attestation with our first release, but we're not stopping there. The industry, the work customers are not just on CPUs. They are on various other accelerators, GPUs. They are on other technologies, as well as they want to get that zero trust, not only from just confidential computing aspect of it, but overall platform. And that's what our roadmap is. We want to go across all the aspects of computing platform to make Project Amber as an independent trust authority that provides that trustworthiness for our customers who want zero trust. And that's our vision for the roadmap that we are marching towards, starting with our first release coming up later this year. So in summary, I think we already covered this. Project Amber can be described with three adjectives. It's an operator independent, scalable, multi-cloud turnkey service. Super excited to get this out there because this is exactly what customers told us, and we feel like we are responding to them exactly in the language that they spoke with us. Initially, it will support SGX and TDX technologies. Three-step adoption process that Raghu talked about. Very important. Customer experience basically drives adoption and crosses the chasm that our CTO Greg Lavender talked about. So we are focused on that. Enabling multiple passport and background models in our service is equally important because customers want a variety of models. And last but not least, super excited to see Sindhuri and her team collaborating with us to drive the seamless customer experience for everyone who is going to use this service across confidential computing spectrum. So thank you all. Thank you for being here. And thank you, Sindhuri, once again. Thank you, Raghu. We will open up for questions, I think, here or maybe in the extended session.